Thank you. Good day, everybody. So normally I smile when I give presentations, but today it's 4 a.m. in the morning. So welcome to our presentation on predicting Arabic speaking English learners' lexical knowledge. My name is Mastoor Kaboody, and I'm a PhD student, and I'm here today with my supervisor, Dr. Jeffrey Pinchbeck. We are both from Carleton University, Ottawa, Canada. And we're excited to share with you all our research today. And our presentation will take a typical layout of a research study. So before we dive into our study, let me start with a sentence. And if I may ask you to read the sentence and try to understand it fully. Perfect. So did you all understand the sentence completely? If not, that is perfectly fine. But in a typical classroom environment, we tend to give our learners materials that they don't know most of the words. And in this sentence alone, we know 8 out of 9 words. However, like the meaning is not communicated properly because I can assume with confidence that nobody knows this word because it's a pseudo word. This is important because it illustrates a point that without knowing the meaning of even one word, it is hard to claim for full knowledge of a sentence. And this notion is supported by research. So learners need to know at least 95% of the words in a text to read it with assistance, for example, with the help of a teacher, and make sense of most of it. But to read and comprehend the text independently, learners need to know at least 98% of the words in any given text. And I want you to reflect on that the next time you're going to a classroom, and giving your students some materials to, to either read independently or do in a classroom setting. And I remember when I was in the classroom, most of the times we would get frustrated because our learners overuse Google Translate, and we oftentimes we ask, why are they using Google Translate to produce these weird sounding sentences? And the reason for that is because they lack lexical knowledge. They don't have enough words to communicate their ideas. So a perfect knowledge of grammar rules doesn't help if there are no words to express those the syntactic rules and put them into communicative situations. So with our context in Canada, we have diverse classrooms. Our students come from all over the world, and our classrooms consist of, different L1 backgrounds: Chinese, Arabic, Tagalog, Persian, you name it. And our goal is to ensure equity when choosing language materials. As language teachers, we have a responsibility to ensure that all students have the opportunity to learn and use new words, regardless of their background or abilities. We need to make sure, all of us, you and I, we need to ensure that our materials and resources are inclusive and relevant to our diverse classrooms, and that we avoid favoring one group of learners over others. As students from different backgrounds, they have different exposures to the language, and they are, even though placed at the same level, they come with varying lexical knowledge or different. So how do we normally choose vocabulary targets for teaching and learning? Or how do publishers, the textbooks that we use, how do they choose vocabulary targets? One of the ways is they use frequency lists. And frequency lists are tools that rank words based on their frequency of occurrence in a language corpus or a text. They are often used to guide vocabulary instruction by telling us which words we should focus on first, or we should teach first and because these words are likely to be encountered in real life situations. But frequency lists, even though they're popular, there is a lot of misuse of these lists. You know, one of these misuses, like they're very popular, and as a result, they're really easy to generate. So if you basically have an access to a computer and you have basic knowledge of how to use a corpus, you can generate a word list based on frequency. So should we be using frequency lists to help predict how difficult words are for our learners? Research shows that English corpora do not represent language input for FL learners. And we can explore this example or this notion further through this example here. So if we take these two words, pencil and committee, and compare them across frequency ranks and knowledge ranks. By knowledge ranks, we generate knowledge ranks by directly testing learners. So in a frequency list, pencil is one of the rare words that comes later on, and that implies we shouldn't be teaching it as one of the early words in a classroom. The word committee, on the other hand, seems pretty frequent, and based on frequency counts and frequency word lists, we should be teaching the word committee before pencil. But from your own experiences in the classroom, which one do you think your students would learn first? In a knowledge rank, pencil is a very fairly known word, or one of the early words that learners may know. It's a well-known word. Committee, on the other hand, it seems a very hard or difficult word for learners, and it wouldn't be one of the early words to learn. So frequency does not predict knowledge of words. And another reason to explore to discuss why frequency does not predict word knowledge is that some words are easier to learn for certain L1 populations. You know, for example, some words are loan words or cognates, you know, and some L1s share similarities or differences. So, for example, similarities in the writing system or morphology, and these similarities or loan words and cognates can favor one group of learners over others. And then we have that some learners come from different countries, you know, so they have received different FL education and different exposure, and some learner populations they may have or may not have had any access to technology before, you know, they are enrolled into higher education institutions here. So all of those are factors why frequency does not predict knowledge. So to quickly compare word lists, frequency-based lists and knowledge-based lists. Frequency lists are ranked from most frequent to least frequent. And knowledge-based word lists are ranked from most well-known to least well-known. Frequency lists represent target registers. You could see or you could encounter a word list based, for example, the most common verbs in academic writing. That's a register, or spoken English, that's a register. So knowledge-based lists represent learner knowledge trajectories. So what learners at the intermediate level, what words do they know at this level? Frequency lists are used in proficiency test item sampling, but knowledge-based lists are used in diagnostic tests to tell us which words learners may not know. Frequency list considers the register, for example, the academic, written, spoken, newspaper, and then knowledge-based list considers the learner's L1 and context, and it's really important. Frequency lists are used in dictionary creations and knowledge-based lists in text readability to determine if this text or any given text that we may give or share with our students is appropriate for that level, or how many words they may know or may not know in that text. Both frequency and knowledge-based lists can be used as a teacher resource. Frequency lists can be used to determine what learners should learn first. On the other hand, knowledge-based lists can be used to determine what learners don't already know. So ideally, we would like to combine these two lists together to produce better teaching and more efficient, materials to choose words that we teach. Frequency will tell us which words we should teach first, and knowledge-based list will tell us which of among these words, which words our students already know, so we don't have to teach those again. So we just fill in the gaps of knowledge. Knowledge-based lists is a fairly new approach, and in recent years there has been a shift towards knowledge-based word lists, and it aims to measure learners' vocabulary knowledge by directly testing them. This new diagnostic approach was pioneered by Brisbert and colleagues and Schmidt and colleagues. Recently started in 2019, some of these projects. For example, Brisbert and colleagues developed a yes and no test that assesses learners' familiarity with 60,000 English words. This test has been administered to a large sample of non-native English speakers. 385,000 non-native speakers took this test. And they tested 60,000 English words. On the other hand, Schmidt and colleagues, more recently, they have developed a knowledge-based vocabulary list for Spanish, German, Chinese learners. One word list for each learner population. They used a form we call translation approach to measure learners' knowledge of 706, it's 4 a.m., over 7,679 English words. And over 100,000 native speakers took this test. The result of that test includes 3 knowledge-based word lists for Chinese, German, and Spanish. In our case, in our particular study, we focused on Chinese and Arabic learners. And the reason we chose these 2 learner population include these 2 are large learner population in North America. And the L1 Chinese and Arabic is not similar to English. So they're as distant as possible from English. So neither share mini cognates with English. So it makes a perfect sense to develop one knowledge-based word list for these 2 learner population. That was our thought initially. So our study is guided by this research question. So should we develop 2 separate knowledge-based lists for Chinese and Arabic learners of English? Our hope is that we only need to make one list for both groups, but we'll find out our results. So our participants consist of 1,107 total participants. Of those, 148 Arabic and 684 Chinese and 275 other L1s. All our participants are international students, and they're all enrolled in 2 English for academic purposes programs in Canada. We adopted the vocabulary size test for our instrument. So our test was a multiple choice vocabulary test. And this test was administered during class time. And here is an example item from the test. So we will present the target word in context, and learners will choose the most appropriate meaning for that word. So for our statistical analysis, we used Rasch dichotomous model. And for that, we used this version of WinStips. The reason we used WinStips is that it allows estimation of word difficulty for the whole sample of participants. And also it handles missing data very well. for our results, we got high reliability analyses. So for example, for the person and item reliability, we have a 90% person reliability and a 99% item reliability for our 1107 participants and 187 items. The separation of person, it separates the person into 3 ability levels, and our items, they were spread into 8, a little bit over 8 difficulty levels. So our question now is, which English words do Arabic speakers know better than Chinese speakers? And to find out the answer to that question, we conducted differential item functioning, or diff. And differential item functioning, we will have this table. So if we were to create one vocabulary model for both Chinese and Arabic learners, we would like to see all items. Each number here represents an item. We would like to see all items fall in this middle category. So that would mean Arabic and Chinese learners would have similar knowledge of all these items. But our data shows that we have statistically significant items for both, the ones in red, for both Arabic and Chinese. On the top, these are the items that are better known by Arabic speakers of English. And on the bottom here, these are words known better by Chinese speakers of English. So our two learner populations there are many items that they don't share in their knowledge, in their vocabulary or lexical knowledge. So a logical next step is to go and explore each item individually and try to determine why this might be the reason. Why, for example, Arabic speakers know this item better than Chinese speakers, and vice versa. To do that, we had to perform like an item characteristic curve or ICC for the differential item functioning. And from now on, I just would like to start with a disclaimer here. From now on, I'm speculating why are these words different among the two groups. This is not officially part of the study yet, but as we have not spoken to a Chinese speaker informant about the other side of the items. So we would need to get their perspective as to why, for example, a Chinese person would know this item less than an Arabic learner. But my speculations are based on my knowledge of Arabic and the words that we chose to examine. So the first word is accessory, and the blue dotted line here represents Arabic learners and the yellow represents Chinese learners. And the gap between these two lines represents the distance between the gap in knowledge. Ideally, we would like to see these lines as close together as possible, as one line, but it's not the case here. So one possible explanation for this item, accessory, is that this item is finding its way to become a cognate with English. I know there is an L1 equivalent of accessory in Arabic, but most of L1 speakers or most of Arabic speaking English learners would use accessory instead or more frequently than the Arabic equivalent. And I think that is one possible explanation. Another item is haunt. So a possible explanation why Arabic learners know this item better than Chinese speakers is that the concept might be salient for Arabic speakers or salient to Arabic speakers. Another one is mumble. And there is a phonological explanation for this word. So the phonological properties of this word makes it quite easy to say for Arabic learners of English. I, as an Arabic L1 speaker, I find it really easy to say. So that might contribute to its being well known to Arabic speakers. Finally, the word octopus is a well-known word, very, very extremely well-known word for Arabic speakers compared to Chinese. And this is a cognate with English. It's just straight cognate. In Arabic, we say octopus, which is really close. So these findings suggest that Arabic and Chinese learners might need to be treated as two separate groups, and two separate models should be developed to better predict word knowledge for both learner populations, and instead of treating them as one group. Implications of our studies include learners don't follow the same learning trajectories. So learners from different backgrounds, they will have their own differences. And learners L1 likely influences language development. And ESL and EFL textbooks and teaching materials may disadvantage one group of learners over another. And you should be aware of that when you go to a classroom. And one size fits all approach is not optimal. We can't treat all learners as a homogeneous group. Excuse me. And materials made in England or in the US make the assumptions that what learners should know or what learners know and don't know. And this is not optimal. And I'm sure most of us can relate when using a textbook to how many frustrations we have with almost all the textbooks, because they were not designed to our specific context. And we have the issue of fairness and equity. We need to make sure that we are not disadvantaging any, there is no disadvantage against any group in our classrooms. Now, we are looking for collaborators to conduct a large-scale testing of vocabulary knowledge for Arabic learners. Now, we're trying to create a vocabulary model for Arabic learners of English. So if you would like to know about your students' vocabulary knowledge, please contact us. So Dr. Pinchbeck or myself are happy to discuss, or both of us happy to discuss collaborations and projects that we can work together. So if you have access to English, to Arabic speaking English learners, please reach out to us. And I'll give you the floor to ask questions, and Dr. Pinchbeck and myself are happy to answer.
To acquire another language. So as a prospective language student, I want to acquire a language of the region where I'm currently teaching. How can this awareness help me? Because the language that I'm studying has got absolutely no correlates. I think the word you used was cognates. There are no cognates between my first language, which is English, and the language I'm trying to learn, which is Russian. So, how can I use this awareness in my own study?
Interesting. So, Jeff, do you want to take that?
I can try. I don't know very much about Russian, but I think there are quite a few cognates. Eventually, when you start to, if you learn a lot of Russian words, you'll find in the beginning it'll be very difficult, but at some point, I'm sure you'll find some words that are similar. A lot of words in Europe have been shared because of history, so you will find some similarities in some words along the way eventually. I'm not sure if that helps. I mean, I think eventually, if it's going to be a while, maybe, I don't know what level you're at the moment, but if you start reading in Russian, you might start to see patterns once you learn the writing system, which is different than the one we use in English. But the sounds, I'm sure, are similar. And once you learn the writing system, I'm sure you'll see some patterns. It won't be as easy as if you were learning German or French. But I'm sure you'll find quite a few words. Neither of us are experts in Russian, so I can't really comment on that. And as far as I know, nobody's doing knowledge-based word lists of Russian speakers right now. There might be some data available that we don't have access to. Thanks for your question.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So there is a question in chat. I missed out the reason why the Chinese L1 seem to recognize more words than the Arabic speakers. So there is, and it was a bigger overlap. Yeah, there is an overlap, but the two groups, there are also some words that Chinese learners know better than Arabic, and some words that are well known by Arabic speakers compared to Chinese. We have looked at possible explanations or speculations of why Arabic learners might know these words better than Chinese. However, for the Chinese learners, we still are looking, we still are trying to find a Chinese speaker informant to tell us the story of these specific words. Why, for example, a word like, let's say, mumble is well known by Chinese, or a word like efficient is well known by Chinese compared to Arabic learners. So for that, we will need, we're doing qualitative speculation or analysis of the Arabic side, but for the for the Chinese, we're still waiting to explore that further. Jeff, if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, that's about it. Neither of us speak Chinese, so we're gonna have to. I need to get a grad student on this project and to start looking at the Chinese words more carefully.
So if you want to do your PhD and you speak Chinese.
Can I ask a question, Mastoor, please?
Yes, please. Yeah.
I'm sorry if you already explained it in the session. First of all, Mastoor, I'd love you to reach out to us at CCQ if you want to have more people involved in, in analyzing those words. I'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Regarding the words you used to test the students' knowledge, was that taken from an existing list or not? And another question is that I saw there was a sample of a multiple choice question, so that was given in context. So is there anything related to how you can measure the level of context? You know what I mean? So if you give the student the word in isolation, they either know it or they don't know it. If it's given in context, how was it measured to make sure that the context was at an acceptable level, if that makes sense? I don't know if it makes sense.
Yes. I'll give it a try, Jeff, and then you you jump. Thank you, Mick. That's a great question. So yes, we adapted the vocabulary. Our items were adapted from the vocabulary size test, which was developed by Nation, or like improved in 27 by Nation and Begler. So we used items or sample items from that test for our purpose. As to the second part of your questions, like testing words in context versus like in isolation. So Brisbert and colleagues have done a yes and no vocabulary test, right? So they would show a word and ask participants to just say, yes, I know this word, and no, I don't know this word. The only difference in between these two tests is that we can't ensure the people who answered yes in the yes and no test are actually know the word, right? So to avoid or to plan for that, they added so many pseudo words. And those learners who would answer yes to a pseudo word, they will just take him out.
Thank you. There's only 1 minute left, so I want to give other people a chance to ask questions.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'm really looking forward to the further results of the study.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. So we have talking about. Oh yeah, there's a comment in chat.
Yeah, there is 1 minute, just 1 minute.
Yeah, if there are any, I think we, yeah. Thank you everybody for joining, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.